Hey there everybody, it's Mike DiLisio, and today I'm going to be reviewing Sunrise Lane from designer Knizia and publisher Horrible Guild Games. Sunrise Lane is a re-implementation of an earlier game by the same designer that was an abstract game called Rondo. There are some relatively significant changes between the two games, however, so let's head over the table. I'll show you how this game plays, come back here, and I will let you know what I think. Okay, here we see a two-player game setup of Sunrise Lane. Every player is going to start with 3 cards in hand and a supply of houses in their color. The first player will have this marker and they will not change throughout the game because there's going to be an equal number of turns. On your turn, you can do one of 2 actions, and the game, you are dealt with 3 cards at the beginning. So let's say the blue player, as they have the first player markers first, they start with these 3 cards. On their turn, they can do one of 2 things. They can either build houses or parks, or they can draw 2 cards from that deck. So maybe this first turn, maybe they want to build up and they're going to draw a couple of cards. There is a maximum hand size in the game of 5 cards, and so if you ever go above, you have to discard down to 5. So the first player, they're going to go ahead and they are going to just draw a couple of cards, okay? Next player, they're going to look at their hand and they have the same option. They're going to choose to build houses, okay? So they've got 3 different colors here, green, red, and blue. That's going to correspond to the spots on the board that have these pips, okay? When you're building houses, there's a couple of rules. One is that you have to build next to either yours or another player's house or a park or this central space. So at the beginning of the game, you're going to play next to this central space. So let's say, for example, they wanted to go and build this blue house, okay? So they're going to play that blue card, they're going to take one of their houses and they're going to put it on blue. That's going to give them 2 points because the number of pips on there is going to give you your score. If I had played multiple blue cards, I would stack them up and it would be a multiplier. So if I had had 2 blue cards and played them there, it would be 2 times 2, which is 4. But in this case, we only have 1. Now from here, I have to, if I'm going to continue building houses, I have to do it adjacent to the one I just built. So I don't have a yellow card there. What I can do instead is discard any color card to build a park. You get no points for a park, but now you can continue to build, all right? I can build this red now for 3, and now I've got 2 plus 3, 5 points that I would score right away. At the end of a turn where you build a house or parks, you draw 1 card up. All right, so now back to this player. They've got a few more things that they can kind of play with now. So looking at what we have here, they're going to do this. They're going to play this pink card, place one of their houses right there. They're going to play this blue card, place one of their houses right there. They now have 2 yellows, so they're going to play both yellows, and they're going to stack 2 of their houses on the yellow spot, and then they have 1 red that they'll play right there. So now they will total up all these points. You have 2, 3, 11, and 12, and they would immediately move up to get those points. They would also draw a card at the end of their turn. That's basically it as far as taking turns. Either build houses or parks or draw 2 cards. And you're going to continue to do this until one of 2 endgame triggers happens. Most commonly, actually the only way I've personally seen it end, is when one player has 2 or less houses in their supply. Then you will play an equal number of turns and end the game there. The other way that the game could end, and this would be an immediate ending, is if you look, there are 4 kind of quadrants that make up most of the board. If all 4 of those quadrants are completely filled with houses, the only spaces that are not a part of that are these kind of central spaces here, that T. That would be an immediate end of the game. You wouldn't play an equal number of turns. At the end of the game, there's going to be some majority scorings. The majority of your points will be scored throughout the game when you place houses, but there are going to be 3 different types of majority scoring that are going to happen. You've got the A's, the B's, and the C. The A's are referring to the blue areas that are here, and they're going to be scored independently. That's for tallest houses. In both of those regions, you're going to be checking who has the most 5-floor houses. If there are none, then you go to 4, then 3, then 2. Single-story houses are not considered in the blue areas. Whoever has the most is going to get 10 points, and there are friendly ties. So if there are 2 players that get that, they would both get the 10 points, and then 6, and then 3. In the red areas, the B areas here and here, the scoring there is for most houses, okay? And it has no bearing how tall they are, but most houses in those red areas, okay? And then the final C scoring, and actually I should say the scoring for the B area is exactly the same, 10, 6, and 3. And then in the C area, that's going to be using the whole board, and that has the most spaces connected. Whoever has the biggest single group of adjacent spaces with houses in their color will get that bonus. After you add those points to the total that you had, the highest points are going to win Sunrise Lane. Let's head back and I'll let you know what I think. Okay, so I think that gives you a pretty good idea on how to play Sunrise Lane. It is not a terribly complex game. It's actually very easy to learn the 2 main actions. One of them is just drawing a couple of cards, and building houses and parks makes pretty intuitive sense, I think, as well. I mentioned at the beginning of the video that this is a re-implementation of an abstract game called Rondo. Now, I never have played Rondo, but I did read the rules, and I feel like I have a relatively good idea on what some of the differences are. You know, outside of theme, of course, Rondo was themeless. This has a nice theme of kind of building homes and neighborhoods and trying to gain points through a clever placement of those homes, all right? But from what I can tell, one of the most significant differences between the 2 games is this majority scoring that you do at the end, and also the fact that you have your own color houses that you are placing out on the board. The majority scoring, I feel like, is a really big part of this game, and I'm almost struggling to imagine a game with the similar mechanisms of this game that did not have that majority scoring at the end, because it incentivizes you to do different things, one spreading to different areas of the board, of course, but also building taller homes is going to be something that is kind of pushing you to do, which makes you maybe spend more time managing your hand and trying to get 3, 4, 5 cards of the same color in your hand, and then having the longest uninterrupted chain of homes as well. I feel like that adds such a huge amount to this game that I struggle to think about playing it without that. So that being said, my impression is that this is a game that I would like more than Rondo, although I have not played it, so I cannot say that definitively. First thing I do want to talk about is the production of the game, and there are many aspects of the production that I really enjoy. But let me start with a couple of the quibbles that I have. One is that depending upon the lighting in the room that you're playing the game in, the pink and the red spots on the board can be a little bit difficult to determine. Now, there are colorblind friendly symbols both on the cards and on the board. The cards, they're very easy to see. No problem at all differentiating the different buildings, I think, on the cards. But if you were dependent upon the symbols on the board to be able to tell the difference, that's tough because they are minute. They are tiny, tiny, tiny symbols on the board. And so while I appreciate they're there, I'm also glad that I don't have to depend on them in most cases because I don't think that they're large enough to really be functional in that manner. The other small quibble I have, but it is a relatively small quibble, is that some of the homes, the different colors, stack better than the others. You do need to make sure that they are all being stacked in the same orientation or it'll be different. It'll be difficult to get them to stack nicely. But to me, that's pretty minor, honestly. I don't mind if they lean a little bit. It's not that big of a deal. I do overall really appreciate that they have those little pieces because when I first got the game, I thought, well, is this superfluous? I mean, do you really need these little plastic minis? but I think they're very functional. I actually like them, and I find them satisfying to stack. So I'm glad they went in this direction and did these 4 unique, distinct buildings that kind of stack on each other. I do overall think that they are nice. The card quality is good. Nothing, it's not notably thin, and it's not like really great linen finish cards that I think will hold up over play after play after play. They did release some custom sleeves for the game, and I think that it might be good to get sleeves for it because you are shuffling the cards a fair amount. You will vary almost every time. I think every time I've played the game, you have to shuffle the discards to remake a new stack. So I think cards, sleeves might be a good idea if you're going to be playing it a lot. So overall, the look of the game is nice. The art on the cards is very, very nice. I think the board is pleasant to look at with those usability concerns. I actually really appreciate that it's a relatively small board and a smaller than normal size box. This is not a Ticket to Ride size box. It's a smaller box, and I like it. I like the amount of space it takes up on the table. It's not too large. It doesn't. It's not necessarily where I feel like they overproduced it or underproduced it. Just right there. Gameplay. Well, this is a Reiner Knizia game, and as such, has rules that almost make it sound like where's the game. When you read the rules, you're like, oh, okay, you're either drawing cards or you're just playing them to put houses out. But within that very simple rule system, I feel like there's a very satisfying, yet light and breezy type of game. This is not something that's going to necessarily be a brain burner. There's going to be significant luck of the draw involved, of course, because you're kind of fishing for cards. And unlike a game like, say, Ticket to Ride, which I've already mentioned for the box size, where you're kind of looking for specific color cards, this hand limit does kind of change that quite a bit. You can't just keep drawing cards over and over again and amass this huge hand and then go for a gigantic turn. The most cards you can ever have in your hand is 5, which is the maximum size, tallness of houses you can build too. And so, do you continue to draw until you can get the 5 of the same color, which is very satisfying, especially if you can place it on a 4 or a 5 point spot. 25 points is possible, and that feels so satisfying when you're able to pull it off. Or do you go the route of just trying to build 1 and 2 level homes all across the board, trying to get those endgame majority bonus scorings? I've seen both methods work. I think they're both viable. And another thing that I really like is the introduction of these parks that allow you a little bit of flexibility in getting your houses on the board and also mitigate a bit that card draw luck, because if you have a card that means nothing for you, that's useless, you can use it for a park, which can then lead to your cards being useful to you. And so the careful use of parks can be very, very big in this game. It's also lightning fast. This game, even at its full 4-player count, goes very, very quickly. The time on the box, they say, is 45 minutes. I think that is on the high end, even on a 4-player game. I've played games of this in 30 minutes or less. And it does so without feeling like a filler game. It is a light game. It is a family weight game, absolutely. But it is one that I have played multiple sessions of, back to back to back, and have really enjoyed it overall. With it being as light as it is, will it have legs? Will it hold up? Will I still be playing this regularly in 2 or 3 years? Well, possibly. I don't know. I have played it a whole lot in the few months that I've had it. But will it have legs? Will it be able to stand apart? The jury's still out on that one. I can recommend the game, and I am recommending the game. I'm giving Sunrise Lane a 7.5 out of 10. It does a lot of things right. Some usability issues, some production issues bring it down a little bit. And the fact that it is such a kind of simple core mechanism also makes me wonder if it's going to have the depth to hold up over multiple plays. That's a lot of multiples, but I think you get the idea. So a 7.5 out of 10, a recommendation, and a lovely little package too overall. So if that sounds of interest to you, you should definitely check out Sunrise Lane. That's going to do it for me. This is Mike DiLisio signing off from the Dice Tower Midwest Annex.